If you're an aspiring artist and you're looking to level up, a good cheap art supply is watercolor. In particular, watercolor pencil. The reason why I say watercolor pencils instead of like colored pencils is because when you blend colored pencils, you spend forever in a day trying to blend them and softly blend them together, and you're just learning pencil skills, which is great because if you're starting off, I think your best bet is just start off with computer paper and a pencil and just get good at sketching. But once you're to the point where you want to experiment with color, watercolor pencils are where it's at. Now, the reason why I say that is because once you get the pigment down on the paper, which you can do on the road anytime you want. So, like if you brought the paper out to the park or on vacation, you can sketch this with your colored pencils or your watercolor pencils, that is. And then you can bring it back home and activate it with a paintbrush later. Or you can do it on the fly while you're out if you bring the supplies, because all you need is a paintbrush and water. You don't need anything else. Maybe a paper towel if you want to, but for the most part, just water. The other reason why I like using watercolor pencils and a watercolor paintbrush is you then learn another skill. You're not just learning like pencil skills and learning how to sketch, because you already know that if you've been doing computer paper drawings and sketching. You don't need to learn more about shading in different colors. You just need to know how colors interact with each other. And so, why not learn the skill of using a paintbrush and pushing pigment around? And then it opens the door to learning more about watercolor too at the same time. The other thing that's nice is if the drawing turns out well, you could always hit it with some more watercolor paints if you have those at home and add more color and more depth to like a background. If you did just a sketch like I just did, I could add a background to this painting. I don't plan to, but if I wanted to, I could actually build in a whole scenery around this triceratops, and then it might potentially be worth like even selling. The thing is like watercolor paintings are paintings, and even though this is started off as a sketch and a watercolor pencil sketch, if it's finished off with watercolor paints, most people don't know the difference. Your average Joe that doesn't know much about art supplies, they don't know the difference between a watercolor painting and necessarily a watercolor like colored pencil drawing. But they do know if you try to sell them a colored pencil drawing that it's probably worth less than a watercolor painting, because for some reason people think that paintings should cost more money. Same thing when it comes to like marker drawings. It's like you might spend a lot of money and have expensive equipment, but like if you are using expensive supplies, but it's a marker drawing or a color pencil drawing, the common person, it doesn't relate to them. They don't understand that that's why the value of something is so high. Unless you're able to convey that message, it's very hard. With watercolor, though, it also opens up a lot of experimental techniques. So if you do start diving into watercolor and watercolor paints, you could do a lot of different crazy things with the background. So there are some downsides to watercolor pencils that I have to explain. One of them is once you activate it with water, you really can't erase it. And if you activate it with too much water, you could potentially like over blend, and you could have your colors blend together if you don't keep your water, like you want to make sure water dries before you go into certain areas or before you go over areas, which is all learning curve. Also, watercolor tend to be pretty light in color as far as opacity. So sometimes to get dark colors, you might have to go over it a few times or use ink like I did. I used a Micron pen to get blacks on the painting or the drawing before I even started. I will say if you rewind the video a little bit, you would have seen I was using the watercolor pencil after it was wet. So you can actually get your watercolor pencil, get the tip wet, and then it'll actually draw really dark. But I don't use that technique that often. I don't trust it as much, but it's all about experimentation. Maybe I should try it more often. And if you like what you saw here, hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching.